All right, welcome to Dad's Watching Sports. It is the week of July 5th. We're coming fresh off Independence Day, and we are glad that you joined us here on episode 22. Man, it's hard to believe 22 episodes in to Dad's Watching Sports. And yes, we still don't have a whole lot of sports going on, which has made this podcast a lot of fun. But no, in all seriousness, thanks so much for joining the podcast this week. As always, Michael Draper here, joined by Kyle Castles and Matt Kirk. And, you know, every single week we come to you, we talk a little bit about some of the biggest news in sports. We also talk about our lives as dads. We've all got young kids, and we're talking about just the funny stuff and the serious stuff and the stuff that just makes you slap your head and go, man, what is going on in my household? We try to talk about that all throughout the show as well. And this week we've got a special guest that's joining us. If you haven't checked out last week's show, please go in and do that. We had Peter Burns from ESPN and the SEC Network come on and talk about his life as a dad, and then also about working for ESPN and a little bit about college football, as we hope that is still coming our way. But this week we've got another great guest, and we're really excited about having Patrick Graham of Say It Out Loud Sports on as a guest here on Dad's Watching Sports. So, Patrick, thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. And I'll give you a moment here in just a little bit to tell us a little bit about your podcast, about your show, what all you guys do there on Say It Out Loud Sports. And we're excited to have you on. If you are checking us out for one of the first times, obviously, you know, you can check out Dad's Watching Sports anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can also check us out Mondays at 10 a.m. Central on the RTF Sports Network, and also Tuesdays at 4 o'clock Central on the RTF Sports Network. And you can find that if you go to rtfsportsnetwork.com. You can also check them out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the social media, as well as you can check out our show, Dad's Watching Sports. Just search Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, even TikTok. You can check us out on that as well for Dad's Watching Sports. We'd love for you to interact with the show each and every single week. We want you to rate and review and subscribe and all that fun stuff, but we'd love for you to interact. Check us out, obviously, on our website, dadswatchingsports.com. We would love to have you to interact with us. Give us some show topics. Give us your take on what we've talked about for the week. We would love to have all that information for sure. Guys, we're going to get into some sports talk here right off the bat. And, you know, it's Kyle, you know, we here we were 3 months ago, and we were thinking, you know, oh man, I hope sports don't get interrupted by COVID. Then we've been through this whole sports shutdown for the past 3 months. Now things are slightly starting to come back. It seems like we've got dates for baseball and NBA, and NFL says they're going to be back. College football says they're going to be back. And now we are really starting to see the cases of COVID really ramp up, specifically in Florida, where a lot of these sports are going to take place. So, man, what is your take on what's going to happen over the next really, you know, 30 to 60 to 90 days with our favorite sports leagues? Will they be back? Will they push the start back? What's your take?
You know, I hope they're back, obviously. I think it's really going to depend on the players. If we haven't seen a ton of players say they're not going to show up, you've seen some. It's just a few players. I think they'll continue on with the season. But if there's enough players that say, you know, I'm not willing to do this, they'll have to cancel the season. Luckily, we haven't seen anything close to that yet, but we also haven't started yet, so we'll see.
Yeah, man, it's gonna be really interesting because, again, you know, especially like the NBA and MLS, I believe they're both taking place at the Disney Worldwide of Sports. And Florida, as anyone has seen, has had these numbers just continue to grow and grow and grow. And yes, they're going to kind of be in their bubble, but you got to think about staff that are going to be there and what they've interacted over the past couple of weeks. And it's just going to be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. Patrick, you know, the MLB took so long to kind of get together what they're planning on doing. And again, now we're seeing these cases continue to rise and rise and rise. What's your take on the major sports leagues and whether they should come back, and whether you would come back if you were playing?
Well, if I was playing, I'm 100% playing. Obviously, certain situations would call for you to stay home, like the birth of a child, which we'll get to, labor's having it or whatever. But as a player, I want to play. And most of these guys have came out and said they want to play. So to Kyle's point, the players, like if a big name player comes out and everybody starts going, then obviously the leagues won't happen. But I see most of them happening 100%. They're going to have weird times because people are going to be missing time. So once they're in the bubble, if someone gets COVID, it affects the whole landscape of the season. The only thing I'm worried about is college sports because they're getting paid. They're risking, more kind of in a way because they're not getting paid. So I don't think college sports is going to go off anytime soon. I think that's going to be pushed back probably to the spring, even football delayed to the end of next year. But as far as Major League Baseball, football, basketball, I think all those go off.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of money involved across the board. You're talking about college sports, and just the TV deals alone for college sports is, I'm sure, all the pressure is on them to get those seasons in. I don't know if you guys noticed or saw this news, but USC, University of Southern Cal, just recently announced they are going full 100% online classes this fall. Well, their football team obviously is one of the more storied programs in college football. They start the season this year, or they're supposed to, against Alabama. And Alabama, the state of Alabama, has been really high in their cases as well. So it's going to be, it's just every single time there's positive tests and there's these things that come out, it really changes the entire landscape for all these groups. Matt, I know you've been pretty adamant about trying to stay away from people and really just hunkering down, and you guys social distancing. And what's your take on, first off, this whole mess? And then would you play if given the opportunity, if you were one of those professional sports athletes?
Man, these people are world-class athletes. They are in the best shape. They get access to the best doctors, to the best care. And if they happen to get sick, if they get sick, then they're going to be just fine. Now, if you're a player in one of these cities that's in a bubble, like the NBA, that could run rampant. And I hope that would not happen to any of the NBA players. Because they're all going to be in same proximity, and there's no social distancing in basketball or football. But right. In my opinion, you're a world-class athlete. You take care of your body, and you're going to be able to recover from that. I've got two friends actually here recently that have just tested positive, who I consider to be pretty, in shape. And, they both had a really hard time with it, but they said, that you bounce back after a couple of days.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to get it myself because I am not in good shape and I don't take good care of my body. I exercise, but I eat like crap, and it isn't a good thing. But anyway, if it were me, yes, I would play because I know I'm a world-class athlete and my body is designed to fight off a little bit better because of the great shape I would be in.
So, Patrick, you mentioned –
and I think that they'll all end up playing. I think everything except for college football will play.
We'll see. Only time's going to tell. Patrick, you mentioned, the only thing you might leave or not go down for was like the birth of a child. And Gordon Hayward of the Boston Celtics has already let it be known, hey, my wife is due really kind of any day now with the birth of our daughter. And when that comes, I'm leaving the bubble down there in Florida, and I'll have to sit out the 2 weeks, for quarantine to come back. Patrick, what's your take on that? It sounds like you do the exact same thing. I think we all would. But what's your take on that and how that could potentially impact the Celtics, who are a title contender? Yeah,
it's 100% the right choice. He's committed himself. He's been there for the first three. I think they have three. So he's not going to miss the fourth one because later in his life and just ruin him. Like, I missed I was there for your three siblings, Could cause problems. But on a serious note, he's doing the right thing. Like, basketball's there. He's made money. Like, they make plenty of money. You're not going to miss your birth of your kid for a basketball game. It will affect the Celtics a little bit. They got Brown, Kemba Walker. They got a deep team. It would be in the middle of the conference finals, I believe. I think they start on the 15th, depending on when the due date is. But, yeah, 100% I'll do that. I think he's making the right decision. It's a no-brainer to me.
Matt, what's your take? Not necessarily on – I think we all agree about the birth of the daughter. You're going to leave. But, I mean, again, the Celtics really – they're going to be one of the top, probably 2 or 3 seeds in the East. A lot of people are saying they could be in line to make a run for the NBA Finals. You've got one of your star players who would be leaving, and usually in this situation, they're leaving for a day or two at tops. But this is a situation where he would have to go back into quarantine before coming back. If you're a teammate of his, obviously you understand as a dad. But if you're a teammate, are you like, man, this stinks because here's one of our best players that could be potentially out for a whole series.
But the thing is that they went real far without Gordon Hayward last year. while he was hurt. I believe it was last year, it was the year before. But, I hate to break it to them, but they're not going to win anyway with the Dallas Mavericks in town.
Yeah, something like that. All right, one last thing we're going to get to about COVID and the restart of sports. Kyle, I want to get your take here first. So there's been a lot of discussion about in these pro sports where if they're not going to have a crowd and pumping in crowd noise at any professional sport and maybe even at college sports down the road if there's not fans in the stands. I want your hot take, Kyle. Are you a fan of pumping in crowd noise, or would you rather not have it and just be able to hear the shoulder pad smacking or the guy's sneakers going against the hardwood floor?
Yeah. So from what I've heard in the piped in crowd noise, I think it sounds awful. I think it makes it kind of gives the whole thing an amateur feel. I think it could kind of work for a sport, like soccer, where those crowds, it's chanting and it's horns and it's this constant like flow of sound. They just turn the volume up a little bit when there's a goal or something. I think that it can kind of work there. But as far as any other sport, like take a sport like football, where the crowd dies down when it does, it picks up when it does. You're asking for a whole lot for someone to sit there and get that sound just right. I don't like it. Maybe in like I said, in a sport like soccer, but outside of that, it's going to sound really bad.
Yeah, guys, we just have a few minutes here before we got to go to break. So just a kind of a quick one or two word answer on this. Patrick, are you in favor of crowd noise being pumped in or no?
For the crowd noise, I'm all for it because these two jokers are saying no. So I say pump that noise.
There we go. Well, I'm kind of against it as well. I think we've talked on this podcast before about the authenticity of sports and the and everything. So I'm against it as well. I think in any point in time, it's going to be a little weird getting used to, but I don't think it brings anything extra to it. Patrick, before we go, we've got about 2 minutes before we go to a break here, but wanted to give you a few minutes just to tell us a little bit about Say It Out Loud Sports, and before that, just about yourself and your family and really anything you'd like to share, and maybe it's a little bit about some of your favorite sports teams, but share with us all that info.
All right, so we'll start with the family. I've been married for 7-8 years. I got 3 kids, one 8-year-old daughter, and then 2 boys. They're 6 and 3, so that's pretty busy. I live out in California. It's hot out here. The kids are always running outside. It's fun. I mean, just the typical family guy, just hanging out, watch sports, hang out with the kids, work. And then the podcast I started, I wanted to do it for 3-5 years. I was talking about it, and then finally this quarantine hit, and I had a lot of extra time on my hands, so we kind of just started it, and it's been a blast ever since. So we just have the couch feel. You sit at home with your friends on Friday and argue about sports all day. So why not record it and just put it out there? So it's nothing too serious. We try to make gambling picks and all that, but half the time I'm completely opposite money, just bet opposite what I say. So other than that, man, that's pretty much it. We're on all the podcast networks, Apple, Spotify, all that stuff. So it's just fun though. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. It's just kind of a hobby turned good. So
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's like you said, when you can just sit around with your buddies and talk about sports and then kind of put it out there for the masses and whether they like it or not. And I think that's kind of definitely the way that we feel. And like you said, you can check out Say It Out Loud Sports on all the places that you can find podcasts, and we'll definitely give you another chance to plug that before we get out of here. But guys, we are going to have to go to a quick break. When we come back, we're going to recap our July 4th, talk about how that kind of went with the family. Also, a big 5-star recruit in college basketball chose a not so traditional choice when it comes to 5-star talent and what that could potentially mean going forward. So we'll get to that and more. We got Patrick Graham of Say It Out Loud Sports, Michael Draper, Kyle Castles, and Matt Kirk. We will be right back on Dad's Watching Sports. Thanks for checking out this week's episode of Dad's Watching Sports. We hope you subscribe to our show in Apple Podcast app as well, or wherever you listen to podcasts. But are you following us on social media? Now, whether your thing is Facebook, Twitter, the Gram, YouTube, or yes, even TikTok, you can find some great dad content on all of our pages. Now, enough of this nonsense. We just need to pay Kirk's PlayStation internet bill. Now, back to the show with Matt, Kyle, Michael, and all the fun of Dads Watching Sports. Welcome back to Dads Watching Sports. It's Sunday, July 5th, 2020. This is episode 22 of the show. Thank you so much for checking us out, and we are excited to have you take part of the show. Michael Draper, Kyle Castles, Matt Kirk. We're joined by Patrick Graham of Say It Out Loud Sports. You can check them out anywhere you download podcasts as well. If you're listening to us in an app, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, also make sure you go to the RTS Sports Network and check us out there as well. Spoiler alert, the show doesn't change over the course of the week, but you can check us out there as well. We're on Mondays at 10, Tuesdays at 4. They have some really great shows, really kind of across the board. I will say there's a couple of University of Kentucky shows that I frequently listen to, so shout out to them because they produce a lot of good content about some quality athletic programs, if you guys know what I'm talking about there. But anyways, guys, welcome back, and we are back from the break. We're going to talk a little bit about we got some sports topics, but definitely want to get into some 4th of July recap as we were coming right off the day of Independence Day. And, you know, guys, first I've got to ask you this question before we get into how everybody's 4th went. In our neighborhood, and this has been the case really for a lot of holidays, but 4th of July, it was really more prevalent. People shooting off fireworks like 2 or 3 days in advance. Matt, has that happened? Because I'm like, I just don't understand it. Like, why shoot out, July 4th is the holiday, not July 3rd, not July 2nd, not July 1st. Why shoot them off ahead of time, especially when we've all got young kids? I'm trying to get them in bed and the fireworks are going off. Matt, what's your take? Is that happening down there in Texas as well?
Man, it makes me mad. I'm not going to lie. There's some people that live behind us that were shooting fireworks after 11 o'clock. And here they have an ordinance where you can't make loud noise after 10. So they were just kept on shooting, and then they ended up waking my wife and I up at 11:30. And after that it was done. But I was like, good grief, people! I think that people should not be allowed to shoot them until the 4th of July.
Well, we actually had the cops called a couple of times on people in our neighborhood, which I think is a little bit too much. But still, Kyle, we talked about it. We've all got young kids. We get those kids down, and then all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. And you're like, man, you still got 2 days. Come on now. What's going on with that?
Yeah. Luckily, my kids tend to just sleep through that. But I have dogs, and my dogs can't stand it. Yeah. Actually, while we've been recording, my dogs have been outside, and one of my dogs, she's terrified of everything, and so the fireworks going off, she's just been out there barking almost incessantly for an hour because I've been in here and not able to get out to her. If my neighbors are listening, I'm sorry. I was filming or recording a podcast, and I could not go get her.
Priorities.
Exactly. My podcast is more important than you having a peaceful night. And if you want to have a peaceful night, talk to the people shooting off fireworks on July 5th, a day after.
And if you want to have a peaceful night, go back and listen to some of our previous episodes. We've got 21 of them. Just put them on, and you're ready to go. Patrick, how was your 4th out there in California?
Well, yeah, touching on what they said, I must be blessed too because my kids sleep through everything, and I don't have dogs, so nice. I hear them. But the dogs are the big. My parents have a bunch of dogs, so their dogs go crazy all the way from the 1st to the 10th when everybody runs out.
Yeah.
The 4th was good, man. I went up to the river a day early, and I went up on the 3rd, so I got super sunburned. So that was a mistake. So yesterday we just swam, barbecued, did some fireworks. Maybe may or may not have started a fire, but we were able to put it out, so it was all good.
But you were able to put it out. That's the important piece there. So no shame in that. Well, good deal. Matt, I know you were one who is a connoisseur of the grill. Definitely fired up from time to time. What was cooking at the Kirks for the 4th?
We had ribs. I smoked 2 racks of ribs. They were really good. I rubbed them down with some 2 meat church ribs. I used the honey hog hot and then the honey bacon hog. Used that and then wrapped it in foil with brown sugar and butter and some honey. And then I put on my favorite barbecue sauce, which is Stubbs Sweet Heat. And stuff will make you want to slap your mama.
Not too hard, though.
No, just a soft little love tone.
There we go. Yep.
I don't want to knock out my mom's teeth.
No, but definitely don't want to do that.
Yeah, but man, they were good. And then we had beans. We went to the in-laws and we got in the pool. And my in-laws have a great view of Texas and in Dallas, where you can see. We saw 26 different fireworks shows from their backyard. You can see all of them.
Nice.
And obviously, as they got closer, you could see that they were closer. And then the ones that were a little further away were, a lot further back. But it was really cool. I'd never seen it like that before, and it was really neat. And the interesting part of that is I actually told my wife 3 years ago on 4th of July that I was going to marry her when we were just dating at the time. So that's always a pretty good way to remember that.
That's a bold move. So I got to ask, what was her response at that time?
Well, we were a little bit under the weather on the grandpa's cough medicine.
Okay.
So yeah, I had quite a few, but at the time she was really excited, and I guess it worked out because we're still married. So.
The question is she still excited?
That's another story.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, man, here at the Draper household, we had a pretty great 4th. I shot you guys some pics. We did like a crawfish, shrimp, potato, corn boil. It was awesome. Turned out fantastic. Was very, very excited about that. Had the family over. We did the pool in the backyard just a little bit. And then our daughter, who will be 4 in September, really had her first fireworks experience. Last year, we put her to bed before it all started. And so we let her stay up late, and she had the little sparkler. She was watching it all go. And in our neighborhood, I'll be honest, people must have been bored out of their minds and saved a lot of money during COVID because they went all out, and it was all around us, just everywhere with people shooting them off. And she had her headphones on because she hates loud noises, but she was just enjoying it all, just looking around, and it was fantastic. So we had a great 4th, and luckily people stopped shooting them off around 10:30. So we were able to get some sleep after. Kyle, what about you? What did the Castles do for the 4th, and what did you guys get into?
So I've been at the in-laws all weekend. We were down at my wife's at Lauren's mom's house, not too far. I mean, it's kind of around the corner from you. Yesterday, and burgers and dogs, and kind of laid back, whatever. Today we're out at her dad's. He's got 15-ish acres. And a little pond, and we burgers and dogs again, and we hung out at the pond. He's got like a little paddle boat and this big float, and Jack, my 3-year-old, he decided he wanted to get on that float, and nobody else was down there, so I got on the float with him, and we kind of went out and floated a little bit. I had a little paddle, and I paddled us back to the dock when he was ready to get out, and he got off that float real easy. But my fat tail did not. And when I went to try and push off the float to get up to the dock, the float went away, and I fell directly into the water.
Nice.
So that was fun. Everybody got a good laugh out of that at my expense, and so I guess I did my job, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Everybody needs a good laugh, and so I'm sure your family appreciated you providing that. I'm glad you were able to dry off in time for the show. Guys, as we get into really the kind of the heat, no pun intended, of summer here, always thinking about the activities that come up and the activities that we can do. And one thing I wanted to share with you guys and for the listeners out there is we frequent the pool. I think I mentioned that before. We went out to the YMCA pool as I talked about on the last show. Luckily, there was not an older man taking pictures of young girls in bathing suits this weekend, but we were out there on Friday, and it was so cool. My daughter really kind of got over a big fear of jumping in by herself. I was there obviously because she can't swim that great yet, but that was really cool. And it always kind of reminds me about pool safety and water safety as a person who grew up in my professional career working for the Y and really being around a lot of pools and being involved with safety around water and stuff. It's always a big piece of me trying to think of how do we prepare our children the most to get ready for water safety or pool safety. But Matt, what are you guys looking forward to doing? And maybe what's one or two things you're not really looking forward to the remainder of the summer?
We're supposed to go. So we go to the pool in our neighborhood at least once a week, if not more. We're actually. I'm looking forward to this. We're going to put my daughter in swim lessons, so I am looking forward to that. There'll be private swim lessons, which would be great. Be at over at someone's pool, and we'll just take her, and she'll be with them for however long they last. And then we're also going to go on vacation, so that'll be nice. We're supposed to go to Colorado at the end of the month.
Yeah. Vacation is a good time. It's going to be interesting to see how things are shut down. We have a vacation planned. It's supposed to be in May for Myrtle Beach. We moved it to August, and now we made this and canceling it all together. Guys, we're going to shift gears really quickly because I wanted to get to some sports topics before we let Patrick go. Makur Maker, who is one of the top 5-star recruits in the country in college basketball, really kind of broke some headlines and broke some barriers really this past week, where he announced that he was going to choose Howard University over the likes of UCLA, Kentucky, Memphis, and a few others. So here's a 5-star guy. Really could have gone anywhere. He's actually still looking at the NBA, but people are thinking that he's probably going to end up going to school, and chooses Howard, which is a historically black college university. Kyle, I'll get to you just quickly first. Do you think this is a trend that we'll see more and more often?
Honestly, I doubt it. When things get back to normal, I think guys are going to go back to what they know, and what they want to know is I want to win a title. And unless we've seen things like this happen before, where there's a big name guy going to a smaller school in both football and basketball, and it's never translated into, okay, now we're going to see a bunch of big name guys go to that school. And so he'll stand out against the competition, and he'll be gone in a year, and that'll kind of be the end of it. We'll go back to normal, and most of the top guys that don't end up going straight to the pros will come in and just want to win a national title. And so they'll go to the schools that give them the best chance to do so.
Patrick, what's your take? And then also, do you think coaches of these historically black universities are really putting more intentionality into recruiting some of these top players than maybe they would have, just a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I tend to agree. I don't think it's going to be a trend, especially with the top 5-star guys. I think they're going to still want to go to Blue Bloods, Duke, North Carolina. I don't even think this guy's going to go there. Kentucky. I don't even think he ends up going there, and I think he goes to the NBA. He fought pretty hard to get eligible, petition to get. So I don't think he's going to do all that and then go back to school. If he does, great. I mean, I would like to see a lot more balance among colleges, but I don't think it's ever going to happen. I think the possibility of them getting 3- and 4-star guys, maybe the occasional 5, would be cool in itself. But yeah, I don't think it's going to be a trend. I think what Kyle said is going to be 100% right. You'll see it maybe here and there, but at the end of the day, they want to go to the big schools and play in March Madness and get the notoriety and things like that. So we'll see.
And the coaches, I think, of those schools, I think, are definitely going to be putting a lot of pressure on some kids, those 4- and 5-star kids, though, over the next couple of years, saying, hey, here's somebody that came here, especially if he goes there and it works out well. I think if he goes there and it works out well, I think it could really kind of open the door. Guys, let's shift gears really quickly before we get to go to a break. The Washington Redskins, it's come out that more than likely it's all but certain they're going to change their name. First off, Patrick, what are your thoughts on that? And then what would you vote as their new name to be, removing the term Redskins?
Man, I go back and forth with because this whole world's in shambles. The name change thing, I could see it. They probably should, I guess, if that many people are raising arms about it. I don't know what their name should be, though. Like the Murder Hornets. That would be my first pick. That'd be awesome. But probably they can't do. I don't know if they can do like this. Just the skins. I don't know. The Washington Skins, shirts and skins. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I saw the baseball Indians are gonna have to change their name. What about the Chiefs? They could change every sports team pretty much. Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, Murder Hornets is my vote. Doubt it gets there.
Thanks for checking out this week's episode of Dad's Watching Sports. We hope you subscribe to our show in Apple Podcast app as well, or wherever you listen to podcasts. But are you following us on social media? Now, whether your thing is Facebook, Twitter, the Gram, YouTube, or yes, even TikTok, you can find some great dad content on all of our pages. Now, enough of this nonsense. We just need to pay Kirk's PlayStation internet bill. Now, back to the show with Matt, Kyle, Michael, and all the fun of Dads Watching Sports. Welcome back to Dad's Watching Sports. Once again, thanks to Patrick Graham of Say It Out Loud Sports, who was with us for the first half of the show. Check them out wherever you listen to podcasts. They do some great stuff. They did an episode, guys, a couple of weeks ago where they went through a couple of lists, like their top 5 lists and some things, and one of them was sports movies, and obviously we did the sports movie bracket. So Patrick, unfortunately, is no longer on the show to be able to bring up his reasoning behind, but he chose Semi-Pro as his favorite sports movie of all time, and his co-host, whose name I forget, chose Any Given Sunday, Kyle. So that's somebody that you at least had that in common with.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm glad that somebody else, not you two, because y'all don't understand what a good sports movie looks like, but at least there's somebody else that understands a good sports movie when they see one.
Well, if I do have to remind you, Peter Burns last week, SEC Network, ESPN, was very ecstatic about the fact that Tin Cup had made it to our Final Four and thought that it was a well-deserving Cinderella run to the Final Four.
It took a chili dipper in the finals.
Yeah,
just because you found somebody else to agree with you doesn't make you right.
Oh, it absolutely makes me right. Speaking of being right, it looks like the Washington Redskins are going to be changing their name. And before Patrick took off, he brought up this point about, well, where does it stop there? And that's kind of how my thoughts are, is like, okay, we didn't look at the Chicago Blackhawks, the Minnesota Vikings, the Cleveland Indians, the Golden State Warriors, even the New York Yankees. I mean, all those teams need to change their names as well. And I get the premise of where some people might be offended. I get that. But I think that comes across in every walk of life and in many different ways that people can be offended by things. And I think we just have to get to the point where we say, you know what, we're just going to continue on the way we're going right now. So, Kyle, I'll toss it to you first. Kind of what's your thoughts on it, and what would your new name for the Washington Redskins be?
So this is not something that just started in the last month or two. This has been a decades-long fight between, quite honestly, a lot of Native American groups and Daniel Snyder, the owner of the Redskins. I feel like it was something that we all knew was going to happen at some point, and with the situation we find ourselves in this country, it just kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
that this would be the time. Beyond the whole, like, where does it stop? Let's be really honest, or at least for me, Redskins to me have the best logo in the NFL with the best color scheme in the NFL. Their uniforms, the logo, like, it all works. I like all the striping on it. It's just, I love it. So I would hate to see all of that go. But here's the deal. Daniel Snyder was not going to do this until his sponsors started to pull out.
Right.
I saw a headline right before we started the show, and I haven't read the story, so I apologize. But apparently some of the minority owners of the Redskins are starting to want to get out from being in partnership with Daniel Snyder because they don't like all of the backlash. So when you start messing with rich people's money, that's when they start to pay attention.
That's true.
So that's what we're seeing. As far as what should the new name be, there's a lot of things you could go with. You could go with the Fighting Donald Trumps. I think that would be great. That would be a lot less polarizing than the Redskins.
Be huge.
It'd be.
They would be the best team.
Obviously.
In the history of all teams.
That's right.
No, I mean, DC's got a lot of other pro sport teams that I think have pretty good names. I mean, I like the Washington Capitals.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. I'm not a big fan of Wizards on a football field. If you wanted to go a little bit different, I mean, you could maybe bring in the term United, just, the Washington United, something like that. Or, I mean, go from the XFL and Washington Defenders. I mean, just keep that garnet and gold color scheme. As long as we keep that, I'm happy.
So my choice for the new name, I will tell you my wife's choice first. We were talking about it earlier. I was like, hey, honey, throw out some names for me. And she came up with the Washington Flaggers. because she said, when I think of Washington, D.C., I think of the flag. And I said,
wait. Flaggers.
Flaggers, like people that wave flags. Yeah. So, yes, the Washington Flaggers. That is not my endorsed name. I'm going with the Washington Senators. That I think, like you mentioned, they had the Capitals that they're in the NHL. They've got the Nationals in the Major League Baseball. I think the Washington Senators kind of works in with that as well. Matt, what's your take on the name changing across the landscape of sports, and then also a pick for the new Washington NFL franchise mascot name?
Well, I've got three that I think would be pretty funny, or not pretty funny. They'd actually be pretty reasonable.
Okay.
So I actually talked about it moving a franchise team there, and it'd be pretty funny, or an expansion team there. It would be really funny if they named one the Washington Senators and one the Washington Representatives.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. But now on to my other ones. I'm a Cowboys fan, and I think this would be hilarious. The Washington Foreskins. To keep the skins in there, you can just still call them the Skins.
It's a completely different skin that we're talking about now.
But they could get a little ahead there.
That was awful. That was really bad.
What I really think would be a good name would be the Washington Sentinels, like what was on The Replacements.
Okay.
But what I think they're actually going to use, which they probably should, is the Washington Americans. And they're going to switch their color scheme to the red, the white, and the blue.
There we go. Very nice. The Washington Americans. That's much better than the other name that you mentioned.
I mentioned two other ones. Which one?
Well, we'll just leave that for the listeners. They can go back and hit back 30 seconds if they'd like to hear that again. I can't make
it'd be a lot more convenient for our listeners, Michael, if you would just say it.
It would, but Matt, your mother listens to the show, and I don't want her to to have to put up with that again.
Your mom does too.
That's true. She's very embarrassed for you right now, guys. It got me thinking a little bit about we have this name change, and this has happened a lot over the course of sports. So my toss or my trivia question for you both, and I'll give you both an opportunity to think about it for a second, and we'll just kind of go back and forth. Matt, I'll give you the first option here. Is can you name the last 5 sports teams, this is across all sports, that changed their mascot name or their nickname, whatever you want to call it, without physically moving from the state that they are in? Can you name the last 5 sports teams to change their nickname or their mascot name without moving locations, the state in which they were in?
So I had that one on my list as well. So I'm going to come a bit more recent. The Oilers moved from Houston to Tennessee. And you said move state, not city, which helps me. So I'm going to say the Tennessee Oilers to the Tennessee Titans.
That is correct. In 1999, the Tennessee Oilers played in Memphis for 1 year in the Liberty Bowl. Actually went to a couple of their games there. Then they recently became the Tennessee Titans the next year, and then went on to the Super Bowl to lose by 1 yard. And maybe we'll have that receiver on the show at some point in time. Who knows?
It's possible.
Matt, back to you. Any other ideas about the last 5 sports teams to change names?
The only other one that I could think of is probably the Oilers to the Texans.
It's a different franchise, though.
Yeah, but it's a different franchise.
No, it's not. It's the same thing because they wear their throwbacks.
The Oilers franchise moved to Tennessee. Yeah. There was a brand new franchise in Houston.
Oh, wait. Oh, they changed the cities, not names. Shoot, man. It for sure wasn't in the NBA. It has to be an MLB, or are we talking in what sports? Baseball, basketball?
Well, we've got 2 basketball, a baseball, and a hockey. I'll give you those hints.
Basketball. Oh, wait. So it was in New Orleans. The Pelicans, they went from the Hornets to the Pelicans.
That's correct. In 2013, the New Orleans Hornets became the New Orleans Pelicans. Kyle, there's 3 left on the board.
Yeah, so they were the Hornets because they moved from Charlotte. So the Charlotte to New Orleans. we brought the new franchise went into Charlotte and were the Bobcats because the New Orleans teams was the Hornets. Once New Orleans moved to the Pelicans, the Charlotte team moved from Bobcats back to the Hornets, so the Hornets were back in Charlotte. So
that is correct. That. Yes, the Charlotte Bobcats were around for a couple of seasons before moving back to the Charlotte Hornets as what they were in that franchise's history before that. So, yes. All right, Matt, we've got two left. We've got one Major League Baseball and one NHL. They are both within the decades of the 2000s, one in 2008 and one in 2006.
I know them.
Baseball.
I know.
Was it the Washington Foreskins to the Washington Nationals?
No, that was not it. That was close. The Montreal Expos became the Washington Nationals back in the day. But Kyle, you said you might have a good idea. Can you at least give me the baseball team?
You want the baseball team? So it wasn't much of a change, but the Tampa Bay Devil Rays became the Tampa Bay Rays. And if I remember right, they had some sort of like jar that anybody in the organization that said Devil Rays had to put money in.
I think you're right about that. Yeah.
Something like that. Wasn't there something like that?
Yeah, I do remember something. It's kind of like a swear jar almost.
Yeah.
But yeah, 2008, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays they dropped the devil and they got right with the Lord and became the Tampa Bay Rays, going on for Major League Baseball. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and give you the 2006 team, although, Kyle, I think you said you might have it. So
I know this one too.
In 2006, and this is a travesty here.
I agree.
The Mighty Ducks of Anaheim changed their name from that to the Anaheim Ducks and dropped Mighty off their name as they wanted to distance themselves from the kids franchise, the Mighty Ducks, which, let's be honest, that's the only thing that anybody really cared about that franchise for, other than maybe Paul Correa and Teemu Selanne to kind of throw you back there. So,
NHL 97's calling my name.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So there you have it. The Bobcats became the Hornets became the Pelicans, the Devil Rays became the Rays, the Mighty Ducks became the Ducks, and the Oilers became the Tennessee Titans and lost by a yard in the Super Bowl. Guys, let's move forward. This is something I want us to do really over the course of the next couple of weeks. We're going to choose different sports. Matt, you'll be happy to know that next week we're going to go NASCAR. But this week we're going, I don't know if you guys saw, but a couple of weeks ago, really in the middle of the night, when the point systems kind of fell the way that they needed to fall, Liverpool ended like a 20-year drought for winning the EPL league, and they just dominated. I mean, it was just kind of the way things kind of fell, but they absolutely dominated with the scheduling. It worked out at the end, and they, with a lot of games left, they ended up winning the English Premier League for this season. So my homework assignment for you guys, and we can talk a little bit about it here, but we can also catch up next week and get your official assignment, your teams, is I want us all to choose an English Premier League team, and we're going all in. We're supporting them. If you own the FIFA game, you're playing with them in FIFA. I mean, really anything that you can think of, we're going all in on some English Premier League soccer. Now, I will say that with a caveat, because I actually already have a team, and I'll give you a little info on that. So my team is Newcastle United.
I mean, I know full disclosure, I went to Scotland and to Edinburgh and to London last year. That doesn't mean I know anything about this, but okay. I have two teams that I'm trying to kind of choose from. I don't know anything about them, but
give us a little teaser here.
Yeah, so Chelsea is one, and the other one is Tottenham Hotspurs.
Okay, well,
just because they're the Hotspurs.
There you go. Well, Chelsea has traditionally been very good over the past really, decade almost. But Tottenham is moving on up in the ranks, and the Hotspurs are definitely a hot team to jump on board with, without a doubt. So.
And if I remember right, because I played FIFA, I don't know, 17, 18, somewhere in there. Didn't Tottenham have, yellow shirts, blue shorts? Weren't they that kind of their color scheme? Weren't they yellow and blue? I may be wrong.
That's a great question. Sure, yes, we'll go with
that. Yeah, let's go
Absolutely.
With that.
So,
let's go with it.
Matt, you have any info for us on a potential EPL team of yours?
Man, so I've got a cousin that's diehard into soccer, diehard, and he loves the Everton FC team.
Okay.
And I'll probably look a little bit more into it to see what they're all like. But That's probably who I'm kind of got on the radar for now.
Okay. Well, Tim Howard, who used to play goalie for the United States national team, was a longtime Everton FC goalkeeper. So there's a little USA tie in there.
Okay.
So if you decide you want to go for Everton, so okay. Well, we'll check in next week and we'll figure out who's everybody's going with. And then again, we're going all in on this. So we'll have a little off season to prepare. Watch our team, scout our players, get ready for who's getting sent on the transfer wires and all that stuff. So I hope you guys are excited as I am about our EPL adventure here on Dad's Watching Sports. Kyle, I can tell you, I can just see the excitement written all over your face.
Man, you know me, I'm all about that. I'm all about that European football.
That's right.
Stuff.
Yep, without a doubt.
Football.
Football. Well, something that I know we are all about is SEC, and there doesn't get anything bigger for the SEC than talking Paul Feinbaum, who's the kind of almost world-renowned guy who hosts the call-in show, and it's really just kind of taken off, and now it's on the SEC network and on ESPN radio. And guys, have you heard the biggest news about Paul? It appears that kind of ESPN, ABC, Disney conglomerate is pitching an idea for a Paul Feinbaum sitcom where there's a good chance that Paul actually might play himself in this sitcom. So, Matt, I toss it to you. Could you see yourself sitting down on a Thursday night, after coming fresh off a week of Bachelor Nation on ABC and turning on the Paul Feinbaum sitcom? You think something to watch?
Man, Paul Feinbaum is a goober. I'm not a big fan of him. He always trashes my Razorbacks. I never heard the man say one good thing about them.
Well, and can you blame him there?
I would rather watch. I'd rather watch two turtles race than watch him. So no.
So that's a no for Matt on watching the Paul Feinbaum sitcom that will be named later. I think I'll check it out. I mean, I'm really interested to see, like, is this about his life? Is this about the show, especially like early on in the call-in show? Because obviously things have changed a little bit with that show since it's been picked up with, on ESPN, the SEC network. But what's it about? Does he play himself? I think if he plays himself, I think it's trash. I'll be honest.
It's arrogant.
Yeah. Well, the guy's not going to be an actor. I mean, he's not an actor. He's a personality. And honestly, the personality of his show is the people that call in, not himself. So I'll check it out, but I'm very tentatively dipping my toe in, so to speak. Kyle, what about you?
Yeah, so I think it would be a better show if it was just the best of Paul Feinbaum and let those callers, be the show. YouTube. Just go on YouTube. Everybody stop listening to the podcast. We're basically done for the night. Just stop listening to the podcast. Go to YouTube. Best of Paul Feinbaum. You'll hear the callers. They are crazy. I lived in Alabama in undergrad. There's a bunch of crazy Alabama-Auburn fans that think that the world revolves around Alabama and Auburn football, and they all call in and they all say stupid stuff. And quite frankly, that's what we want to hear. As far as trying to script that, you can't. You can't script that. It takes a lot of Alabama redneck to do that.
Yeah, and do they go back and listen to old shows and just do verbatim, word for word, what callers are? Do they basically just replay shows? I just, we'll see. I'm very skeptical. I like Paul. I think I kind of like him in his role. I think he does a great job. I love the fact that he just lets people get on that show and just kind of spew whatever they want, and he just kind of sits back and watch the ratings go up and the dollar signs go up, I guess. But yeah, it's I'm not sold on the show at all. Guys, last topic I have, and then just to be frank, we can just kind of get into whatever, as we still got a few minutes left here. Is Bryson DeChambeau, who as of today recently just won the Rocket Mortgage Classic over the weekend in golf. This guy, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but over the course of the whole COVID quarantine, gained about 20 to 30 pounds of just mass and muscle. He hits the ball close to 400 yards off the tee, which is just unbelievable. But the thing that I wanted to talk about is he just recently released kind of like what his diet became during COVID to help him kind of bulk up. And I'm just going to get your take on this after I read it to you. So for breakfast, DeChambeau is eating 4 eggs, 5 pieces of bacon, some toast, and 2 protein shakes. For lunch, he goes a PB&J, Go Macro bars, quote, here and there, 2 shakes mid-round or every 6 holes. So he's drinking 2 shakes every 6 holes, and then snacking whenever he's done with his practice round. Then for dinner every night, he eats steak and potatoes and then drinks 2 more protein shakes. He said it's about a total of 7 protein shakes over the course of a 24-hour period. Matt, that just makes me bloated thinking about it, but it seems to have worked because it's allowed him to really put some yardage on his drive.
Yeah, I mean, it's, chicks seek the long ball.
Apparently.
That's your game. But I tell you, man, I'd hate to be that guy's toilet. I'm not going to lie. I bet his butthole hates him.
Yeah.
Excuse my language here on the show, but, I mean, that dude has got – he's insane. But that's a pretty big drive, and, I can't even hit it really half that far on a good day. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so Kyle, you and I are going to hit up the links later this week. I don't think I'll be getting anywhere close to 400, but I am going to pack on some protein shakes between now and Wednesday to see if I can gain a few extra yards.
Hey, you know what? Go for it. And you know what? It's hot enough down here in Tennessee that I dare you to drink some of those protein shakes while we're on the course and just see how that goes for you.
Yeah, no, there's no chance of that. No chance, because they'll be lukewarm, 3 holes in, and yeah, that's just going to make you sick without a doubt.
So, he whatever. If it works for him, it works for him. I can remember eating some things that I didn't enjoy eating when I was, and so going from an offensive line that needs to be able to move and can't get tired to an offensive line that needs to be able to move people. To do that, I was eating 6,000 to 8,000 calories a day because of how hard I was having to work out. And to get those calories in, I was eating a lot of peanut butter sandwiches, but not just peanut butter sandwiches. See, these peanut butter sandwiches were peanut butter between two chicken breasts instead of 2 pieces of bread.
Nice.
So, yeah, like you can find ways to get some protein in and calories in to bulk up if you really have to.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Well, maybe our second homework assignment is to see how many protein shakes we can drink between now and the next episode of Dad's Watching Sports.
I'm trying to drop weight. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, there you go. I think we all probably are. So,
well, then I'll win.
There you go.
I don't care.
How many do you think you can go, Matt? How many do you think you can go?
I don't know. I'm not going to try because my toilet already hates me.
There we go. All right, guys. Well, we got to get out of here. This is Dad's Watching Sports. We'll be back July 12th next week. I'm very excited. We have Ryan Lemond of Kentucky Sports Radio joining us. Ryan is like a phenomenal part of that show and just an all-around great guy. He and his wife have adopted several children. We're going to talk a lot about that, just about his life. He's been a media sports reporter for like 25 years, so he's got a lot of time in the business to follow a lot of sports. So we'll be back next week with Ryan Lemond. This is Michael Draper, Matt Kirk, and Kyle Castles. We'll see you next week on Dad's Watching Sports. Y'all take care now.